Bitcoin has shot past the 72K mark and Ethereum is pumping even harder. So let's look into it and what I expect. Now let's start with Bitcoin. So this is the daily chart. So every candle is 1 day. And basically from this Monday, we have started, well, pumping for about 16% almost. That is massive in basically 3 days. Now let's zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture. This whole area, this start of the pulse to the all-time high, which we then tested back, bounced off of once and we lost it, bounced off of it again. And yes, this is kind of a range, is not perfect with the line. And then, well, yeah, you know what happened after. So now, obviously this is an interesting point. But in the meantime, of course, you know, a lot of stuff has happened. Now, the first obvious one that we're going to reach is this local drop-off because we were kind of looking for some support here and then boom, we just dropped it. So this is now resistance. With this momentum though, stuff could happen, but this whole area could be a decent place for a short back down to around here because this used to be resistance right here. Let me add a little line around there anyway. And then it can become support, higher low, boom, shoot up even further. But if we go past this point, so to that first low point is just 1.7%. After that, 6% at the 77K mark. Then up here somewhere, so let's just say around here anyway, 12% from now. Now that is the more interesting level. So what I would like to see is obviously the worst scenario on paper is this, then we test back and then boom, we continue further, right? Maybe a little bit of a hiccup here and then basically straight to here. The better scenario is obviously we just pump and then we find some liquidity here, you know, big resistance, and that's when we test back, possibly on this level as a support or all the way back here as a support. Doesn't really matter if you're trading anyway. Now, once we have tested back on this, let's just draw it here. There's a little, you know, drop off area here, but then you're already in this like range. So usually you go to the top of the range. So like here, which from here is 31%. But yeah, that could take like, I don't know, at least a month, but it can be way shorter. It can be way longer. We don't know. It all depends on the price action. But yeah, it's interesting stuff because this reminds me of the 16K level. It's kind of the same thing, eh? And we shot past it. Then we did pull back, lost this local low, going for liquidity, even under here, liquidity grab, boom, and then we shot past. So if you would copy paste this to here, we would basically, yeah, do this, and then grab liquidity somewhere around here, and then boom, new bull market. The past is not a promise for the future, obviously, as you guys know. This is all speculation. Speculation is important. It's not gambling, because that would be, yeah, I'm gonna get in Bitcoin right now, and then, you know, it will go back to the start of this impulse, and you're like, well, geez, I just lost like 12% or something. Yeah, 13. Now that's gambling. But if you're like, okay, around this mark, I'm gonna buy, and around this mark, I'm gonna sell, you know, that's less of just 50-50, you know, saying screw it, let's just do it. There's a little more thought behind it. Now, if you're trading, obviously, you also have a stop loss. So if it goes south, then you get stopped out and you don't lose that much money. Anywho, big moves would be 13.5%, 30-ish%, and then around 50% to here. And then obviously the all-time high, 73.5%. So in my opinion, still a good moment to buy, assuming this would be the start of the next bull market. Some people say the 4-year cycle, it works out perfectly. I don't really follow that, but whatever. We're basically here. So that would be pretty crazy. Now let's look at Ethereum, because in percentage wise, you know, from that Monday, we are up 25% right now, and it was 26%. So 10% on top of Bitcoin's rise, okay? And that in 3 days, by the way. Kind of crazy. Now, a lot of you will be asking, like, how do I get into one of these trades? You know, like, boom, I want these percentages. The thing is, you don't get in here because, like, there isn't really a great entry here. Okay, this was a liquidity grab, and then yeah, I guess this resistance becoming support, that would be a good entry for a scalp, but you would never know it would pump this hard. So yeah, you risk losing like 1%, and you would probably shoot for like, you know, 2%. But yeah, if you move your stop loss, then yeah, that can technically happen. Yeah, this is always just a tricky thing because it kind of plateaus and then goes up and does the same thing. This is very bull market kind of, you know, price action, because you don't really get a proper like retest. So that's nice. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, now here we're kind of forming a range. So this would actually be a very interesting spot for a long setup. So buying, depending on where this high ends, that would be kind of an interesting range kind of thing. But yeah, something like that. And then the range, and then we either break out or we lose it and go back here. So these are just kind of points of interest. If you do want to buy something, just buy it like in parts where there's volume. Volume meaning where there's money. So if I now drag this over here, boom. So there's volume of money here, volume of money here, obviously more because there was more time here, more money being spent by buying and selling. And then the same thing here. And apparently there's some little areas of interest down here as well. But yeah, that's basically where you want to buy, because you're not going to buy in the middle of nowhere where there's no volume, because it's just going to fall through. There's no buy orders here. Nobody's going to put a buy order at this level. People are going to put a buy order at this level or FOMO right in, you know what I mean? Now, for Ethereum on the longer term, I mean, these levels kind of still work. Let me just throw this all away. Just make a mental screenshot if you want to use that. Yeah, the obvious one is what we're going against right now. So around this mark, which we're almost touching. And then there is another at this drop-off area. To be fair, this is kind of like a range. So let me just do that for now. Kind of the same thing here. Like, I mean, obviously you can pick the top, you know, or put it a bit higher like here. But maybe for this one, because it does correlate with this. Anywho, let's see the percentages. So from here, obviously, there's already a 5% upwards boost here if you actually touch the top of this wick. But then if we go to the last like drop off, it's like 27 to 29% already. And then here's 45%. And yeah, obviously, you know, you can pull it back higher. Like this is an interesting level at 68%. And then somewhere in this range, the top new all-time high area is like 100% basically from here. So yeah, I would still say it's a good moment to buy. There's a higher low. We had a higher high, a very slight all-time high, but very impressive because the 2021 era for Ethereum was the peak of Ethereum era. And you saw just by how long we didn't even get close to this high, like until like 2 years later is... You know, it clearly shows. And yes, they have had that before because, you know, this is where Ethereum started being useful and miners were getting it. The NFTs, you know, that's what drove this. But yeah, great moments to buy for the longer term. Obviously, don't invest money that you cannot afford to lose. And yeah, for, you know, a smarter buy, obviously, wait for a little back test to like this resistance, which is now support, or a little higher if you're afraid to miss the boat. That is fine too. So those are kind of my Ethereum Bitcoin scenarios. You know what, screw it, let's add gold to the mix. So this is gold. I did buy a little bit of gold. I think it was here. I guess I sold a little bit here, and I bought some more here, and then I bought some more here. Yeah, for gold, the obvious point, we're kind of running into that right now. One of the resistance points, but this one's more interesting, which is around plus 8%. And then this drop off plus 15%. And then the all-time high, which is, let's just say, around 23%. Again, pretty good. Pretty good. Silver, kind of the same story. Yeah, we don't even look at oil or other kind of things. So, yeah. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, silver, or anything else interesting? Let me know. And are you in it for the long term? Are you trading? Would be interesting to see what you guys are up to. And yeah, for me personally, I just invest for the long term in stocks. I still have some Bitcoin and Ethereum and invest a little bit in that as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like and subscribe, and see you guys next time. Peace.